So managerial economics, to start with, is very practical. So managerial economics integrates two key theories. We have what we call the economic theory and decision sciences. So it integrates or brings together what we call economic theory, which includes micro and macroeconomics, and decision sciences, which includes econometrics and quantitative methods to solving a managerial problem optimally. So our first topic will be on optimization. So economics is predominantly going to be micro. So this schedule, I'll send you the notes just to explain mathematics. So managerial economics is a decision science which integrates or brings together economic theory and decision sciences to solving a managerial problem optimally. So we're going to look at what we call consumer theory, demand theory, production theory, cost theory. These are the main theories we're going to look at in here. For managerial economics, we'll be discussing principles. You cannot guess. When you don't know, you don't know. So I'll be as practical as can be. I'll take you through a number of theories that have calculations in here, and I'll ask you to try out as many questions as possible. So to start with, today we're going to look at demand theory. We have laws in economics. One of the laws is called the law of demand. The demand curve is downsloping. To follows a law which says for a particular normal product, the price of one commodity, if it goes up from P1 to P2, the quantity demanded will also decline from P1 to Q2. This is because people will demand less of an expensive commodity. So this is what the law says. If the price goes up, quantity demanded will go down. That is what the law of demand stipulates. And the demand function always has a negative slope because of the negative relationship. So A is where it cuts the p-axis. And the B is what we call the slope. So to understand demand, firstly we need to understand the factors that affect the demand. So for you particularly, as an individual, could you tell me what factors affect the demand for what you eat, what you wear? Any factors that affect your demand? Yes, Esnat. Yes, Gloria. What are some of the factors that affect your demand?
Cost of the product.
Yes, the price of that particular commodity. Okay. If it's cheap, you buy more of it. All right. What else? Chipunza. Esnat.
I think quality.
Yes, the quality. Or the quality of that particular product. And what else? What else?
Accessibility of the product, could that be?
What else? Right, so we have income. Your income base affects your demand for the commodity. Okay, the type of the good that we're looking at, whether it is a substitute good, you can buy it. Whether it has other types of goods like military goods. Okay, the population also affects the demand for particular good. Osaka has high population, so demand for particular goods is high. We have other factors like the weather. Now that it's raining, the demand for umbrellas is high. Okay, so have income denoted by the letter Y or M. We have the test, one's test or preference. We have the type of good, that's X, Y, where what we call the types of goods you need to know. We have what we call substitute goods. Substitute goods are goods that work hand in hand, but that have the same usage. They compete against each other. All right. Can you give me an example of a substitute good? Give me an example of substitute goods. These classes must be very interactive. I need you to be as interactive as possible.
When you mean examples, you mean the actual names of the goods? Is that
Yes, yes.
Mossy and what other beer? Another beer. Tusker. Is it Tusker in Zambia? Mossy and Amstel.
All right. So that could be
Or Coca-Cola and Pepsi.
and Coke and Pepsi, yes. Okay. So they are the same usage, or Stakenico and what? And fresh. So what does it mean if the price of cinema at Stakenico is high? What happens? You switch, you go to the other good. These are the same after all, or butter and margarine. All right, those are called substitute goods. The art of switching from one good to the other is called the substitution effect. What are complementary goods? Examples of complementary goods?
Bread and butter.
Okay, bread and butter, phone and SIM card. Okay, give me the implication. What happens if one good goes, the price goes up? They move hand in hand. So if the price of one good goes up, the demand for both goods will go down because they go hand in hand. For instance, car and fuel. If fuel goes up, petrol, holding all other things constant, people see no need of buying cars because one commodity has what? Has gone up. So these, they move hand in hand. Milk and cornflakes. If cornflakes go up, if milk goes down, people demand more milk cornflakes because they move hand in hand. An inferior good is a good which you demand less of when your income goes up. This is called the income effect. For instance, if your salary doubles, instead of watching a black and white TV, you'll be able to afford a color, a curve. So that becomes an inferior good, a black and white TV. You are able to afford better. So this is what we call an inferior good. The elasticity of an inferior good is negative. I'll explain a lot later on what elasticity is, but for today, being babies, I would want to use the most basic language to you. We also have public goods. These are goods that are provided for by the federal government, like street lighting, road networks, public schools, and public hospitals. These are provided for by the government. But when the private sector comes in, like private schools, private hospitals, they become merit goods. The necessities are goods we cannot do without. So these are goods like shelter, water, the basic necessities like food. the elasticity is at 1. A normal good follows the law of demand and supply between 0 and 1. I need you to find out what given goods are. We also have what are called precious goods or ostentatious goods. These are goods whose demand goes up, they become expensive. Something that has puzzled economists. Why would an individual want to buy something that is more expensive? They want the only precious goods. All right, bling, jewelry. Okay, the higher the expensive, the more demand they have. So find out what given goods are as your homework. So we also have a contrasting law of supply. Supply is upsloping, and the formula is given by A plus BX. The slope is a positive in this case. So the law says if the price goes up from P1 to P2, quantity supplied will be higher. FRA is a good example. In Zambia, when government announces a good price, farmers will be willing to selling most of their maize because the price is attractive. So factors that affect supply, we have the availability of raw materials, we have the technology, we have the availability of other suppliers. The more suppliers we have, the more supply we have in the market. Technological advancements, all right? So these are the factors that affect supply. And control these two parties would want to exploit the market. The supply would want to go up and the demand wants to go down as low as possible. But the two must meet at a point which is called equilibrium. Equilibrium is simply the point where supply and demand meet. So at this point, we call that equilibrium. So for instance, we have 20 here. We have equilibrium as 14. Here we have 10. 0 and we have 10 there. The supply is always upsloping, the demand is always downsloping. This triangle area here under the supply is called the consumer surplus. The one that touches the demand is called the consumer surplus. The one that touches the supply curve is called the producer surplus. If we add them up, we get the total surplus. You can see that this is a triangle. So the area of a triangle is given by half times base times height. So the distance from here to here is 10. The distance from 20 to 14 is 6. So half times 10 times 6 is 30. So this is called the what? Consumer surplus. And we also have this triangle here. It's still 10 here, but the distance from 14 to 10 is 4 for the producer surplus. So half times the base, which is 10, times the height, which is 4, we get half of 40, which is 20. So when we add the consumer surplus and the producer surplus collectively, we get what? The total surplus, which is 50. So concepts that we need to understand is that at equilibrium, they have agreed to be selling at 40 kwacha, but the producer is willing to still sell you at 10 kwacha. This area is called the producer surplus, is able to go down. Whereas the consumer, we have agreed that you need to what? To buy at 14, but you're willing to pay even higher, which is 20 kwacha. So this area here is called the what? Consumer surplus. So the total is called the total surplus. Now, in economics, we need to understand how to do sketches. So for instance, we're given the demand function here as 100 minus 2q. This is our what? Our demand function. And our supply function, maybe you're given 10 plus what? 3q. So we have just established that at equilibrium, what happens? Demand must be equal to what? Supply. So put 100 here minus 2q will be equal to what? 10 plus what? 3q. So when we equate these two equations, 100 minus 10, here we're going to have 2q plus what? 3q. What is 100 minus 10? 90. What is 2q plus 3q? 5q. So when you get and divide on both sides by 5, we're going to get our q as what? Our q as 18. So this is called our equilibrium quantity. What have we done? We simply equated the demand function 100 minus 2q and the supply function 10 plus 3q. Equating these two, we solve like terms. So in this case, we have 100 minus 2q, 10 plus 3q. So when this goes this side, you subtract, this goes this side, to add 5 there, we divide throughout, we get 18. This is how we get 18 here. Then we substitute this 18 in any of these two to find the price. So here we're going to have 10 plus 3q, where there is q, put 18. So this will give you what? 10 plus 54. So we get our 64 as our equilibrium price. Now we need to plot this. Remember, this is called the intercept, where it's cutting the axis. So even if your eyes were closed, which one is supply and which one is demand? The upsloping one is what? The upsloping one is supply, and the downsloping is what? Demand. So when we go to the demand function here, this number is the intercept. It's cutting the p-axis. So here we put 100. This one is cutting at 10. We put 10 there. So where demand and supply meet, it's called equilibrium. So price equilibrium at 64. So we put our 64 there at price. Quantity equilibrium is at 18. Put 18 there. So if I were to redraw this function, it looks like this here. Equilibrium, price 64, the quantity is 18, starting from 0 here. This is our supply and this is our demand. So from the demand function, we're told the demand is what? P is equal to 100 minus 2q. Here, P is equal to 10 plus 3q. So this is a constant, it's starting from 10. It's for the intercept. This is the constant for the demand, is starting at 100. So we have our P and we have our Q there. So this triangle is called the consumer surplus because it touches the demand. This triangle is called the producer surplus. It's touching the what? The supply. So if we have to redraw this triangle here, the area from the distance from here to here is 18. And the distance from here to here is 36. So this is called the consumer surplus. Answer will be half BH, half of 18 times 36. So you get your consumer surplus. The producer surplus, again, here we have 18. The distance from here to here is 54. How do we get the 54? We subtract 54 minus 10. How do we get the 36? We subtract 100 minus 64. So with this answer, we're going to get half of what? 18 times 54. You get your answer there. So when you add these two answers, the total that you are going to get is called the total surplus. Can you remember? Number one, what are some of the factors that affect your demand for a particular commodity? What are the factors that affect your demand? Yes. Number one,
Price.
price. Number two,
Quality.
Quality.
three,
Income.
four,
Population.
five.
Taste.
Weather.
Great. So give me any 4 types of goods that you know.
Mm,
Substitute goods.
Goods.
Complementary.
Complementary, yes.
Inferior.
Public goods.
Inferior, public, merit goods, good. Right.
Necessity.
So the point at which demand equals supply is called what?
Equilibrium.
Equilibrium. Good. Why is the demand always downsloping? Because of the inverse relationship that exists between price and quantity. The more units of price, the lower the quantity demanded.
Mm.
Okay. So what are some of the factors that affect supply?
Availability of raw materials.
Availability of raw materials, yes.
Technological advancements.
Logical, yes.
Those are the only ones I remember.
That's correct. Anything else? Number of firms, I said. There are more firms that supply. We have the weather, the productivity of the workers, the investment capacity, and the costs of production. If the costs of production are lower, you have more suppliers in the industry. Okay. So we'll end here for today.